What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Fun with Friends podcast. I'm your host, Allie. Everyone has a list of things they've always wanted to do. For some, it's a bucket list, and for others, it's the things that they want to try, but they keep making excuses not to. Maybe it's because you don't have the time or the money, or because you just don't want to go alone. Or maybe you're like me and are just really good at making excuses and finding reasons not to put yourself out there. The Fun with Friends podcast is all about getting out there, exploring, trying new things, and chasing happiness. Join me, Allie, and my friends as we work through our list of things we've always wanted to try, and as we go on adventures and discuss the meaning of happiness and friendship. Who knows? Maybe we'll fall in love with an activity. Maybe we'll find something that brings us happiness, or maybe we find out that an aerial silks class just isn't for us. Come join the fun and hang out with my friends and me as we go on adventures and explore our city. What is up, everyone, and welcome to the Fun with Friends podcast. I'm your host, Allie. In today's episode, I have quite the treat for you. You get not only one guest, but three, so I hope you're fucking ready. Joining me on the episode today is my friend Julie, who you've all met from episode 5. Julie, give a shout out.
Hey there.
Also with us today are Portia.
Hello.
And Caroline.
Hi.
Welcome, and thank you all for joining me. I'm super excited to have the three of you joining me today, mainly because y'all have gone on some pretty fucking amazing trips. And I cannot wait to hear all about them. Each of these wonderful ladies have traveled quite a bit, and we have all actually gone to Scotland at one point or another. And I think a couple of you have gone to Scotland together. Is that right?
No.
Oh. Made that shit up. Made it up. I totally thought that some of you had gone to Scotland together, but maybe Ireland?
Close, yeah.
Close.
Yeah, Caroline, I went to Scotland after a week in Ireland with Caroline.
Ah, okay.
Right. She went to Scotland and hung out with all of my friends while I went home.
That probably worked out pretty well when you're not on your own. So because we've all been to Scotland, obviously that is something that we will be talking about, and we'll also be talking about some of our other travel adventures. But before we go any further, everyone wants to know, what are we drinking tonight? So we're actually going to go around the table and tell our listeners what you're drinking. We'll start with Portia.
Yeah, I am drinking whatever this fancy rosé is that I found in Allie's refrigerator.
I literally think it's called rosé all day. Like, I believe that is the name of the rosé.
I'm not mad at it. I'm enjoying it, so let's get the job done.
Wonderful. Can't go wrong with a good rosé. Julie, what are you drinking?
I am staying classy tonight. I've got a sparkling water, lime. According to the can, there are 2 whole limes in every can.
Not enough lime.
Mm-hmm.
I am also drinking the sparkly lime water, which is fancier than non-fancy sparkling lime water because it's got real lime juice, guys.
That's the key to a good sparkling water is real fruit.
This is not your childhood seltzer with its citric acid. No, this has got real fruit juice.
Two whole limes went into that. That's a lot of effort. And I am drinking gingerbread stout beer. And it's all right. It's got a weird little aftertaste to it, but you know what? It's a choice I made, and I'm along for the ride, so I can't be mad about it. To get to know our guests a little bit more, we like to start with how we all know each other and a fun fact or two about ourselves. We've all met Julie. She was in episode 5, Getting Ink. Be sure to give that episode a listen if you haven't already. And while you're at it, check out all the other ones too. That being said, we are going to start with Portia and Caroline, and then we'll hit Julie up at the end since we already know a little bit about her. So, Portia, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself. So, who you are, where you're from, and a fun fact or two.
All right, so about me, I'm, you're just typical, super fun, fancy fly 35-year-old lady living the dream in the DMV. I was born in the Midwest, originally from Kansas City, just outside of Kansas City, Missouri, but grew up mostly here in the DMV in Northern Virginia. Super fun Beltway baby that I am. But lived for the last 8 years in Denver and just recently moved back to DC.
I love Denver.
It's amazing. I'm missing my Colorado lifestyle. Fun fact about me, geez. I have recently, I became a knitter last year.
That's right.
I caved to the pressure when I moved here to DC. I realized all of my friends knit. My mother knits. I held out for a long time, but when I was furloughed last year, it was do something creative with my hands or start slowly tearing my house to pieces. So knit it was. Yeah, so I started doing that, and turns out trying again, I really liked it. So
moving on to Caroline, your turn. You're in the hot seat. You're in the hot seat. I don't know why I said it that way. You're in the hot seat. So tell our listeners a little bit about yourself. Same questions.
So I suppose, like Portia, I am also just your average DC office worker. Kind of boring. I am from Richmond, Virginia, so I am the Virginian in the room, representing
whoop, whoop.
our grand Commonwealth. Yeah, and I guess since we are telling furlough stories, I like to read a lot, and because I had nothing to do during the furlough, I cleaned my house and I decided to organize my books, and I counted all the ones that I own but have not yet read, and back in January it was like 70, but I've also spent the last however many months like compulsively buying books, you know, and so also probably like half of them actually came from little free libraries, because I also adopted a dog, and so now I just wander the neighborhood and like
picking up books as you go.
Yeah, pilfer from the free little, I mean, I guess it's allowed because they're free little libraries, but I have quite a number. I'm probably hoarding all of the good reads from the free little libraries and doing the neighborhood a disservice, but whatever. I will get to them.
I know.
Eventually.
I was gonna say you got me a book out of one of the little libraries. It was the big one, I believe, and it is on because I had a similar problem. I started just buying a shit ton of books, and I had just stacks around my house, so I had to buy another bookshelf. And I have to say it makes my living room look like an adult lives here.
Mm-hmm. It does. It's
so
nice.
I feel like it was a good life choice. But yes, now moving on to Julie. Last time I think you mentioned that like your fun fact was traveling, and then skydiving I think was something else that you also mentioned, and that you have lived in 6 or 7 different states.
Yeah.
So what is a new fun fact, and is there anything else you'd like to share about yourself?
I would say fun fact / accomplishment. I have been working on the longest scarf in all the land for the last 2 years. That I took with me on all of my travels and work and for fun travels. So the scarf has been all over the U.S. and several countries in Europe. And I just finished, mainly because my aunt was coming to visit, and she said, "Sweet baby Jesus, is that thing done yet?" And so I rushed, and I really committed to finishing it. And it's now been super cold in DC, and so I've been able to wear it. And yeah, it like circles me like 4 or 5 times if I really try, or I just gracefully kind of wear it, and it goes down to my knees.
Nice.
And yeah, it is preposterously long. For any Doctor Who fans out there, like this is classic Who gear. You know, I knitted until I was done, and now I'm done.
I was gonna say, is that the same one that you were working on when we were in California?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's been months.
Yeah, no, it was years. Like Portia is 6 feet tall. It is taller than she is.
That's
like,
amazing.
It is ridiculous.
All right. Now that we know a little bit more about my guests, let's dive into how we all know each other. So we all actually used to work together in the same sad office in DC. That's not true. It's actually quite a fun office.
Like 3 of us are still there.
I was gonna say three of you still work there.
Thanks for insulting our place of business.
It's actually a very fantastic office full of very fun people. And I've known all of you for around the same amount of time, I think. I'd say probably like 2-ish years roundabouts for everyone. I think I've known Caroline a little longer than everyone else, but maybe only by a couple months, maybe something like that. But the three of you have actually known each other for quite a bit longer, right? So let's dive into that a little bit. Portia and Julie knew each other first out of the group. Give us the rundown about how you met. First impressions of each other.
So the first time we actually met was at a training together in Maryland, which would have been like in 2010-ish?
2011.
2011. Neither one of us remember it.
Yeah.
There are photos of us together. All I recall is that Julie had green Converse sneakers that I thought were...
Which you still rock.
Fortunately not the same pair, but yes, I do. I always have green Chuck Taylors for the University of Vermont. Go Catamounts. But that was it until we met a couple years later when we were both working on the same project, and I had decided that Portia was gonna start on a particular day, and she was actually replacing this guy, and he and I had like a weird codependent relationship, and then he was sent home for reasons not of his own fault, and so Portia was replacing him. And so I had decided that I wasn't gonna like his replacement.
You made up your mind beforehand.
Yeah, and so she walks in, and I'm just like, yep, that is the person that I'm going to hate.
Aww.
And so she waltzed right in, and she saw my shoes, which were not the green Chucks, but were a different pair of sneakers. And she walks in, and she's like, oh my gosh, I love your shoes. Are you like around a size 11? And I'm like, what's up, crazy lady? Yeah, I guess they are, yeah. And she's like, I have the same size feet. We can totally double our closet. And I'm just like...
Bonded by shoes.
Exactly. And I was like, don't try and butter me up with shoes. And so my hatred of her lasted a whole, 25 minutes. So, yeah.
Possible to not like.
I was going to say,
like
Portia... I was going to say that. It was like, Portia's one of the most, bubbly, friendly, funny people I think that you'll maybe ever meet in your whole entire life. And it's very difficult to dislike her. And so, you guys worked for a while, and then eventually found your way back to where we are now.
Yeah, we
over
didn't talk to each other for years.
Yep.
And then wound up all back in the same office again.
And then Portia and Caroline, y'all met when you were in Colorado, right?
We did. Portia gave me my first real adult job.
Yay!
So we managed not to meet. I was told that I had to interview for this job in person, and so I flew across the country from New York, where I was living, to interview for this job.
I didn't know
and
that.
I show up at the interview and get told, oh, one of your interviewees is on the phone because her furnace broke.
It was snowing in Denver, so it snowed in my house. My furnace had broken. I just bought my house. The furnace didn't work. So I was at home in the warmest thing I could find, which was at the time a zebra print onesie from Target, sitting in my basement on the phone. We did a phone interview, and Caroline hung up the phone, and our colleague that was on the phone, I was like, I don't really need to talk about this. We're going to hire her. How soon can we do
Bring her in now.
Paperwork?
and Portia didn't understand that I thought that this was literally an emergency and had to show up right away. So I flew back home, quick moved across the country.
Oh my God.
And showed up 3 days before Christmas.
Holy
in December.
shit.
She came across the country in December.
That's some fucking dedication. We all wound up in the same place however many years later.
Portia then proceeded to help me get a full-time job in DC. Mm-hmm. And then slowly all of you came to join me.
Yeah, because you'd been here for a while, I think, by the time I showed up. A couple years at least.
Yeah.
Then I want to be your boss again.
It came full
just
circle.
full circle. Oh my gosh.
But then you moved on to bigger, better things.
If you're like me and you're just getting started with podcasting, it can be scary and overwhelming. That's why Anchor is such a great choice. It's one of the easiest ways to make a podcast, and best of all, it's free. It also has great creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Another great feature of Anchor is that they'll distribute your podcast for you. Your listeners will be able to access your podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many others. You can also make money from your podcast using Anchor, and that's with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place, and it's easy to use. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. As I've mentioned in almost, I think, every single episode leading up to this one, traveling internationally and really travel in general is something that I have always really wanted to do. And as you know, if you've listened to past episodes, I've recently gone on my first international trip, which was last month in October. I went to Scotland. Whoop, whoop. So that's a huge thing that I've checked off of my bucket list. It took me about 2 to 3 years, I think, to finally get there, but I fucking did it. I made Scotland my bitch. It was amazing. It was a really fantastic time, and I loved pretty much every single minute of it, and really wanted to share that experience not only with the listeners but also with some of my really good friends. So I'm excited to kind of talk about the tour and talk about everyone else's experiences that they've had in Scotland, and to just really like jump into it and share that experience with everyone. Let's kick things off by talking about our various trips there. So I think we'll go ahead and start with having everyone go around and just how many times have you been to Scotland? And then what were some of the places that you visited when you were there? And we'll start with Portia.
Yeah, so unfortunately I've only been there once. I've been there one time. It was a quicker trip than I would like. I was actually only able to stay in Scotland for about 2.5 days, but I was there during Fringe Festival. So Edinburgh does have the original Fringe Festival. So there for a few days for Fringe, and then took a Fancy Fun bus tour up into the Highlands and went to Loch Ness and
nice.
And did all that good fun stuff. But yeah, definitely want to go back again and get some more extensive time.
I'm sure that was quite the experience.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was amazing. I think the hardest part about when you're there doing Fringe is it's really hard to meet Scottish people because all of the locals in their right mind leave Edinburgh during Fringe because they're overwhelmed by the rest of the world trying to descend upon them. So yeah, but great shows and random things you probably wouldn't see around. But I got very disappointed by the multiple people I would go up to talk to, and I'm like, oh, cool. You're from Texas. Bye. I don't want to talk to you. I'm in Scotland. I want to hang out with Scottish people.
That would definitely be a little disappointing for sure. So Julie, how many times have you been to Scotland?
I have been twice. I went once to Edinburgh and the surrounding areas in 2013. I was there for about 13 days.
Oh, wow.
Got to stay in a Scottish castle.
Which one?
I don't remember the name. It's now a Marriott property about 20 minutes outside of Edinburgh. Use points.
Marriott taking over everything.
That's right.
One castle at a time.
There's a lot of castles.
There's many to
so many
choose from.
freaking castles.
Yeah, but it was really, really fun. So that was back in 2013. And then I also was just past spring. I went to Glasgow, and that was my first solo trip, which we talked about last time.
One, yeah.
And I was there for 4-ish days, I think. But I think my favorite part of Scotland are just the serendipitous things that kind of like pop up, whether you're traveling solo or with people, just being open to what you can see and do.
And you gave me like a lot of really good recommendations when I went. Like one of the places you told me about was the Willow Tea Room in Glasgow. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the first place I really had to force myself to go, because I did an overnight flight, which of course I didn't sleep because I don't sleep well anyways, and then trying to sleep on a plane just doesn't ever go well for me. So I was essentially awake, and then I'm traveling through time, literally, right? Like I don't know what day it is when I arrive or what's going on in the world. but it's 7 a.m. I had been awake at that point for like 30 some odd hours. Couldn't get into my hotel in Glasgow when I arrived, so I had to like just sit and wait until I could get into my hotel room. And then I napped for like an hour, and then I was like, I must go to the Willow Tea Room, because it was my only free day in Glasgow. It was the day I arrived. So I had to like drag myself out to the Willow Tea Room, and it was beautiful. Like, I'm glad I went, but the struggle was real. I was real fucking tired. Where am I? What's happening?
That's what makes Scotland amazing. I landed in Scotland after staying up all night with Caroline. So we were leaving Ireland, and we were like, our flights are early. Let's just stay up all night. And then we got a cab at like 3 a.m. I forgot Caroline was going home. So Caroline got to get on a 7-hour flight and sleep.
Yeah.
I was taking a puddle jumper on Ryanair from like Dublin to Edinburgh. And then I was like, oh, I can drop myself in my Airbnb. The nice lady, Yvonne, gave me some toast and then booted me back out the door for the rest of the day.
Oh my God,
That's why Scotland is the land of solo travel. It's very nice.
It was crazy. Well, and I felt like very intimidated because I love tea, right? I love tea. I don't know anything about like a proper tea room. And when I got there, I was sitting next to 2 British ladies, and they were like very fancy, like had the full like afternoon tea, like, you know, the towers of food and the teapots and like all the shit. And I was like super, super intimidated. And I was like, I don't want to get any of that next to them because I have no idea what I'm fucking doing. So I just got like a cappuccino or some shit, and I was like, I got scared. It was very complicated, and I was very tired.
I mean, if it makes you feel better, I had a reservation. I went in there and I sat down, and they had like a little sampler platter, and I got that along with tea. And then I was like, oh, and since I was going to be there for a couple of hours, and so I also ordered a glass of wine. And in ordering the wine, I meant to say rosé, but instead, and I'm like, I'll have the rose wine.
Oh no.
And the waiter was super nice, and he's like, yeah, I'll get you a glass of the rosé. I was like, oh, yep, nope, it's rosé no matter where you go.
I'm American, forgive me.
You're like, I'm just so tired.
I'm a pumpkin.
Right, and I'm just like, do I explain the amount that I drink at home, or would that just make it worse? That just makes it worse. Never mind. I'm just gonna let that one stand. Yeah.
And I think out of all of us, Caroline has spent the most amount of time in Scotland. Because you actually used to live in Scotland. You went to school there, right?
I did. I got a Master's of Science degree from the University of Stirling. So I lived there for 12 months.
Nice.
Not in a castle and some student housing. So I went to the University of Stirling, but I think my housing was technically located in like a little town right next to it called the Bridge of Allen. That I think was like most famous for having a pub that the Beatles played in at one point.
Oh,
to fame.
That's pretty impressive. So you went to school there for a year, lived in the dorms.
An American girl in Scotland.
What was it like being an American girl in Scotland, getting that degree?
It was fun.
But Caroline too convinced me that solo travel was the way to go. Because when I was like getting ready for my trip, like you talking about how, because I've always admired that you are the adventurous one of our friends. So like while in school in Scotland, how many different countries did you just like bumble off to randomly on weekends and stuff by yourself?
So we had a several week long winter break, and it was, rather than flying home, it was cheaper for me because I was a student. I got student discounts on things. It was cheaper for me to just buy like a Eurorail pass. And then Europe has all of those discount airlines. So like I bought a plane ticket from Edinburgh to Paris for £6. They literally charged me more. They charged me a greater fee to pay for the plane ticket using a credit card than they did for the plane ticket itself.
That is crazy.
But you fly to these weird, they fly to these airports that are like, it's like I didn't fly into Charles de Gaulle airport. I flew into some random airport that was in like the suburbs, and then you had to I also had to pay for like a £6 train ticket to get actually into the city from whatever strange airport it was we landed in.
That makes me nervous.
So I think I went
to do that.
I got to Paris for $40.
So I'd be like, where am I going? Well, like, I don't. Is this a real airport? Is this plane gonna make it? I don't know.
Canada on Porter. It's a great airline, but you fly to Toronto City, which is not the Toronto airport.
Yeah.
Right. That trip I went to, I think, France, Germany, and the Czech Republic.
Wow.
And then for my course that I was studying in, we actually went, it was like an environmental science degree, so we did like a field course in Spain.
Oh, that's nice.
For like a week, I think.
So like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I made bad.
Why have I not done these things?
I made really bad grad school choices.
Yeah, I feel like we've all missed out, you guys.
And then I did the thing that I think a lot of Americans do, where they stop over in Iceland with the layover for like 3 days on the way back to the States after I had graduated. Have
you done any other trips to Scotland, like just to visit, or was that like kind of your only time that you've been there?
I have not been back yet. It's a little sad.
That's it, ladies. We're gonna have to do a trip to Scotland.
I tried to convince
Let's go
Caroline
back.
to come
Let's go
with me.
back. So yeah, I recently just got back from my trip to Scotland, and it was really cool. So I decided to go with a tour group because I was a little scared to travel on my own because I've never traveled internationally before. So I went with EF Go Ahead Tours. Like, that's the one that I chose.
How did you pick them? Like, what was your process for? Because I don't know if I could actually have managed like picking a group and like.
Yeah, I had actually. I don't even know how many years ago, probably like 7 to 10 years ago. Like I've for some reason, Go Ahead Tours has always been on my radar. Like they're one of the tour groups, guides, companies, whatever, that I always go back to because they have an insane amount of tours and you get to do so much in kind of like a short amount of time. Back in the day, like many moons ago, they used to have a hiking trip of Hadrian's Wall. And that one was one that I really, 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 really wanted to do because you were literally hiking the entire wall and then they would just move your luggage from one B&B to another. So you don't have to worry about it. You just had to take your day pack and just hike to the next stopping point. And it was like the coolest thing. And you had like a guide with you that would talk about the wall as you walked it. And it was like Scotland has always been on my list, and Hadrian's Wall has always been on my list. Like those are places I've always wanted to go, and like when I Googled it, like Go Ahead Tours was always like the first thing that popped up. And so I just, I don't know, advertising works well. I don't know, like I just have always, for some reason, had them in my mind, and they get really good reviews. Like I think the worst thing I've ever seen on any review that they've gotten is that the flights aren't the best that they pick for you. And so I just picked my own flights, which I ended up on the same flights as everyone else in the group. So
that's hilarious.
It worked out, exactly as it would have if I had gone through them. And I think they're fairly affordable. Like I probably could have gone and spent less, but not seen as much. And I think it would have been more stressful because I literally feel like I saw obviously I did not see all of Scotland, but we saw a lot.
You were thoroughly Scotland.
It was like Glasgow to the Highlands to Edinburgh and like everything fucking in between. Like we saw a lot. And so I feel like I got my money's worth. Like I feel like it was it was 10 days. 12 excursions, which I didn't go on all the excursions. I actually paid for some of them and then decided not to go on them because I just wanted to be alone.
How many people were
so
there
were 26 people on the tour, and it was really a mixed bag of folks. Like I was worried that it was going to be all kind of like retirees, but there was a young couple from Texas, older folks, retirees, and then like everyone in between. And there were, groups. Everyone was in a group. Like it was myself and one other lady who were the only solo trippers, or solo travelers. But everyone was like super nice. And we had to go through like day one in Glasgow. We had to introduce ourselves and like, how many tours have you gone on? And some people had been on like 10, 12 Go Ahead tours.
Wow.
Like the same company. It was insane. Like
loyal customers.
Yeah.
That's good to know if they're willing to keep coming back.
Yeah, they went every single year. Like, and other people, like, I think there were maybe 1 or 2 people who had not gone on an EF Go Ahead tour before. And then, of course, myself, I was like, I've never traveled. This is my first time. And so everyone in the group was, like, super nice. They were like, oh, well, you can, like, hang out with us. Like, you can tag along with us. We'll go out to eat together. Like, people were, like, super, super friendly and, like, really, like, open to hanging out. And, I mean, we were trapped on a bus together for a large portion of, all that travel time to and from places. Like, you got to make friends on that bus. But it was the tour that I went on was the Edinburgh and the Castles of Scotland tour. I saw a lot of fucking castles. I think I want to see a castle again for a while. And after like 3 different castles, I feel like you've seen the general layout of every castle type.
Never see enough castles.
But it was like, I'd seen stuff like it before though. Like I went into the rooms, I was like, I've seen, like not even like castles, but just like historic buildings. I was like, I've seen this before. I've seen these structures.
Agreed.
So it was a little daunting. And I stopped, after like day 3, I think, I stopped going on the castle tours and just started wandering the gardens, which was my favorite part because I was like away from everybody. I could just go and like take pictures and just have a great time.
I think that's what I love about castles. Like, the actual castles themselves start to look kind of redundant, but like the grounds and the settings
gardens are the best part.
The personalities you see of whatever family or group of people built this castle, and the ones that were meant to be pretty and decorative, the ones that were really for fortification, and it's kind of cool to see like what makes them like different.
Wait.
Yes.
So did you not go into Stirling Castle?
No. I went into Stirling Castle. I spent a lot of time actually in Stirling Castle. She's like, wait.
Whoa. One thing I told you.
No. That was actually the first one that we went into. So we did Glasgow, and then we did the Stirling Castle all on day 1.
So did you see, I feel like with all the knitters in the room, they would appreciate Stirling Castle. If I recall, had this like weaving studio where they would recreate those like medieval, there's those like medieval weavings with
tapestries,
with like the unicorns. They're real famous.
Yep.
And like Stirling like has like a workshop where
I took a shit ton of pictures of that unicorn tapestry. It was amazing. I did not see like anyone actually doing any type of knitting or weaving or anything like that. But
I don't think it was in the castle. I think it was in like an outbuilding. Kind of, you had to like wander the grounds to find it.
Yeah, I feel like I went through every single freaking room of that castle. I spent a lot of time there, and then I skedaddled and went to the cemetery because I wanted to just see as many cemeteries as possible. And actually, I think earlier that day, we'd gone to Glasgow Cathedral, which was stunning. And there was a huge necropolis outside of that. And I, unfortunately, did not get to spend too much time in the necropolis, but yeah, I loved it. Loved the necropolis. Like, I could spend hours in cemeteries. Feeds my dark little soul. But, yeah, so we went to the cathedral, the necropolis, Stirling Castle, and that cemetery or necropolis all in one day. I mean, it really was. I will say that was, like, one of the downsides of the tour was, like, the pace of it was grueling. Like, it was like, you have to be up by this time, you have to be done with breakfast by this time, you have to be on the bus at this time, we have this amount of time to get to where we're going, you have 30 minutes to do this, you have an hour to look at this, and then you have to get back on the bus. And it was like that every single day. Like, it was just, and then you weren't in bed, like, you didn't get back to the hotel until like 6, 7, sometimes later, and then you had to go out to eat, and I was exhausted. I was exhausted.
Yeah, vacation from your vacation.
Man.
That might not work for Portia and I because we take a lot of snack breaks.
Yeah.
I know, we ran it pretty hard in Ireland. We were
Yeah, but there was like a very distinctive scone o'clock.
Every day it's scone o'clock.
Scone o'clock. No. This was like, there were some days where they were like, you have 30 minutes to find food, good luck. And you would like run off into town and be like, where can I get food? What can I get? And like you'd shove it into your face and like be back on the bus. Like, it was a very like, we must go. It was insane.
I will say,
So Cornelius was the tour director, and our bus driver's name was Paul. And they had the best banter in the world as men. And they were just like, the banter was, I would try to sit in the front of the bus just so I could hear them talk back and forth, because that was the best part of the entire trip. Because they were just so hilarious. But Cornelius was like, I will do whatever it takes to like give you, like, make your tour amazing. Cornelius was the shit. Like, he was just awesome. He also got me out of some of my excursions because I didn't want to go. I was kind of like burned out on the group activities. Like, I totally, like, the thing I got out of this tour was that I can totally travel by myself. It was something I was worried about. I will say one of the things that I found very humorous, I actually enjoyed this. Our tour director had been doing tours for like 30 plus years in Scotland, and he said this was the worst weather he'd ever experienced ever on a tour. It literally rained the entire time we were there, and the wind was horrid. Like, our bus was just like swaying, and the roads in Scotland are very narrow, and you have all these big ass tour buses trying to fucking pass each other on these tiny ass roads, and then the wind's blowing and everybody's rocking, and it was literally quite a ride. Like, it was an adventure in itself. And poor Paul, the bus driver, was like white knuckle, like cursing every time another bus would come. We'd all be like, ugh, and then like we'd be okay. Like, everyone, there was like a moment where you held your breath just because you were waiting for like the side mirrors to explode. It was crazy. It was crazy. And then one of it was a German tour company. This guy, it was one of the most hilarious things. We were at Loch Ness, or around that area, and the bus driver backed the bus out and caught the ass end of the bus, like high centered himself on the fucking highway, blocking all traffic. It was stuck. And our bus driver, Paul, was like, look at this fucking idiot. Doesn't know how to drive a fucking bus. Just going on and on and on. And we were like, yes, Paul, yes, you tell him how to drive a bus. And literally, traffic was stopped for like 50 miles. Like, it was just traffic backed up all the way. We like skirted around. Like, Paul got us out of there. Like, there was a tiny car blocking our way, and I like looked around and I was like, listen, if we all band together, we can lift that car and move it, and then we can be on our way. And we almost did it, but the driver eventually came back and moved, and then our bus like skedaddled the fuck out of there. And then on the way back, hours later, the fucking bus was still there. Like, it was insane. We're like, that bus driver is getting fucking fired. Like, it was not. But like, the rain, I suppose it probably was like bad. Some people didn't like it, but I loved it. Like, I felt like it made Scotland like so much more magical. Yeah. Just like the mist and the rain, mysterious. And the green, and it was just so beautiful. Like, I think that was probably my favorite part was so Blair Castle, which again, it was a castle. But two cool things about Blair Castle. One, they had 5 narwhal horns. Because they used to, kill the narwhals and take the horns, because the unicorn is Scotland's national animal? Is that what it's technically known as? It's they like unicorns. Unicorns, they're on everything. I now have one on my body, as you all know.
Wait, I don't actually think, is it on the flag? I'm not sure.
No,
I said that. I don't think that's right.
It's the St. Andrew's cross.
Yeah, but it's on like
their crest.
Yeah, the crest. It's the lion and the unicorn. So I got to actually touch a narwhal horn, which again was like amazing but sad at the same time, because I was like, these poor animals have died, but I'm also getting to touch a narwhal horn, which I will probably never ever do again in my entire life. And it was really cool to see just like the size of them. Like, they were like huge narwhal, like they're so long, and just, super cool to see those. But then the second cool thing was Blair Castle has a garden, but it's literally like, it is just a forest with a path through it, and it has some of, I think, the oldest and tallest fir trees in Scotland. Like, they're monstrous, they're huge. And so I went to the gardens because I just wanted to like roam them by myself, and again, just like take pictures. I just wanted to spend some time by myself. And so I went into the gardens and the forest and just like wandered around and like took a whole bunch of pictures, and then ended up at there's like some church ruins and a graveyard, and just like spent a good, I think, probably hour just walking around. But I think that was honestly like the best part of the tour was like those moments of just like quiet time in the gardens at the various castles. Like that was, I think that, and then I spent an entire day in Edinburgh by myself walking around, and I started at like 8 a.m. to try to beat like a lot of the tourist traffic, and just again started at the top at Edinburgh Castle and worked my way down, took a shit ton of photos, got a tattoo, just spent the entire time.
As you do.
Like, it was amazing.
I loved spending the day by myself in Edinburgh. I was there for my 32nd birthday, so I spent my 32nd birthday pretty much by myself, except for some friends of Caroline's that we'd met at a wedding in Northern Ireland. And so Amy was there, and Amy was like, well, we do pub quiz on Wednesdays. You want a pub quiz for your birthday? So we're like, pub quiz.
You're like, hell yeah.
These, like, strange, like, and delightful, like, Scottish people. Amy was like Scottish Canadian.
Yeah, Scottish American.
Okay, yeah.
She grew up in California.
But yeah, that was fun. Yeah, but it's a great city to just wander by yourself, and I mean it's safe, and
yeah,
you know,
it was great.
It's fun on a map because you can't ever tell which stuff is upper, which stuff is lower. So it looks fairly close together, and then you realize you're having to hike. Up, because most things you see at like ground level will actually go 4 and 5 stories down.
Right, the streets you think intersect actually do not.
It was amazing. Yeah, so overall Scotland was really a fantastic trip. I definitely would think that I would do, I'm kind of torn. I think I would do a tour again with EF Go Ahead Tours, but I'm kind of torn because the best parts of the tour were the moments I was by myself. So I'm thinking maybe I'm not a group tour kind of lady. If I do another one, I think I actually might just try to go through a travel agent and have them arrange everything for me and then go by myself, because I feel like that's kind of the best combination of both things, because then someone else is doing all of my planning for me and I literally just have to show up and get from place to place, but I don't have to deal with the people. So my antisocial self, that makes me happy. So this next part, I want to ask each of you a couple of questions just about traveling in general. And, you know, y'all can answer them or we can rotate through. It's a free-for-all. Raise your hand, talk. You know, we'll work it out. So the first question is, what's your favorite thing about traveling? Actually, you know what? I'm going to call out names. That's how we're going to do this. It's like a game show. 10 points for wrong answers only. Julie, what's your favorite thing about traveling?
Well, I mentioned earlier the serendipitous nature of you just never know exactly what's going to happen. I was just on this last trip after going solo. I met up with friends and slowly collected them as I traveled south, and we went to France. And on our first night in France, we had this amazing B&B, and the Airbnb had like a horseshoe kind of thing, throwing game. And so we were just outside playing that until, you know, sunset. And it's just like, we didn't plan that. We didn't know that was going to be there. We obviously weren't like, hey, let's go to France and play some random game.
Play horseshoes.
Right. I'm like, I think we got this at home. But it was just sort of this random kind of thing that we never would have really kind of figured out and just kind of found and did. And that might be my favorite part of that particular trip, was just that evening.
All right, next question. Rapid fire. Not really, though. Caroline, what's the most adventurous activity or trip that you've gone on recently? Or, follow-up question, what's the most adventurous activity that you've done while on a trip?
So, one of the reasons I prefer traveling alone rather than a tour is because I just like to go off on random side trips that you find about the night before. So Portia and I, the last international trip I took, Portia and I traveled to Ireland together, and I know that Portia has a deep and enduring love of puffins, and I found this island that has puffins on it, and I was like, Portia, there's this like random island that I think you can take boats to that have puffins, and it turned out it was this like World Heritage Site, which I think has since become drastically more famous because it was featured in the Star Wars movies. It was like the beehives where Luke was like living off in his old hermit life.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But
I know, like, that hermit life.
It appeared nearly all tourist attractions in Ireland. It was like mildly, dangerous.
People die there
Not
on a
mildly
regular
dangerous.
basis.
Yeah, like it was like actually dangerous, and
It like
sometimes
was
people
one of
die.
the most dangerous places, like top 10 most dangerous staircases in the world.
Right.
Oh.
So it's this like tiny island out in like the North Atlantic Sea that you have to like scale this like slate steps to get up to where the monks live.
And they're like wet.
Like off
so I'm
this
sure they're
like
slick.
mountainous.
Yeah.
So they're like wet and
no
slick,
nothing.
and you can't. Yeah, they like decided against adding handholds, you know, because Julie would approve it would ruin the historic nature of the
That's
site.
right. Buildings before people.
I'm on board with that.
It's like a step on a mountain.
So Portia and I climbed up to the top, and it was wonderful. But then you have to go down, and it's really steep and slippery, and like we're both mildly afraid of heights.
Yeah.
So thankfully, the boat driver on our way up had given us some advice. He was like, "Look, if it gets scary, just like butt scoot your way down. Nobody will judge you."
And scoot,
And so we butt scooted our way down Skellig Michael.
Yeah, this place was like one of those before you go up, they like make sure your hands must be out of your pockets.
Oh, so you can grab
You
them.
cannot hold on. They're like, you are going to fall. And they're like, your rain gear, because of course it's raining. So
Yeah,
the rain
well,
gear
they
has
give
to
you
be-
they give you like slickers to wear
Yeah,
on the
on the
boat
boat.
because it's like what was it, like 9 miles off the
Yeah.
coast or something? Like it was a long
Wow.
boat ride.
Full boat
and,
and
like
a white
some,
cap.
Like, wavy
Ocean.
water, ocean
That
water.
sounds like such an amazing experience.
And the guys,
Oh my
they're
god.
like, you have to take your rain gear off because like it's windy and it will catch it like a sail on a
Uh-huh.
kite and you will blow off the side and you will die.
Oh my
Right,
God.
and also because it's borrowed rain gear, like most people had like the legs were too long,
Yeah,
so they were
it's
like,
too
you'll
big.
slip and you will fall off the side of the cliff, and they were like, heads up, it takes a long time for a medevac helicopter to get here.
Oh my
so-
God.
Yeah, but thousands of puffins.
Oh,
So many puffins. She nearly got me killed, but I got
love
all
puffins.
puffins I wanted.
that sounds like such a. Oh, that's an amazing experience.
Sound like long
Yeah,
boat.
but this was, I
Amazing
mean, it was literally
experience.
like me, like the night before, being like, I think we should do this, and our like nice
Party.
Airbnb host, like called
Hmm.
Some
the
dude
number,
with a boat.
and he was like, go to this town and like ask for John, and we were like wandering around trying to find John.
We're like, we need John's book. I'm like, yeah, John's not here yet. He'll
Oh
be
my
here later.
God.
He's like,
He'll be here
John's
in an
not here
hour.
yet.
They were like, go have a coffee. He'll be here. We're not leaving yet. The weather's too.
I'm like, I think I'm too scared. I don't know. Like, I think I'm too. Yeah, I have to be a little more
But then
planned.
John's boat. We found
Yeah,
him,
he
and
showed
then
up.
We paid him when we got back because we're like, well, I guess if we die, they don't get paid. So.
Oh my
And
god.
there
We
was
just went on
like
a
some
boat and ended
legitimately,
off into
there was
the
like a
ocean.
German tourist who kept trying to like take pictures, and like I mean, there were like it was like just barely calm enough for
Yeah.
us to
To
even go out there. So like there were real waves, and the boat was like going up and down, and Portia and I were both
God.
like, that tourist is
Yeah,
literally
we're
about
gonna
to
watch
fall
this
into the
man die in
ocean.
front of his children.
Oh, what a cool experience though. Like that's super awesome. That's definitely a plus to not go on a tour. So you can do like random shit like
go
that
get
whenever
wild.
you want. Okay, next question. Portia,
Hmm.
what has been the best trip that you've made recently and why?
So I think not just one of the best trips I've made recently, but probably my best trip ever was this past June. I took my mother on a Viking River cruise. It was her 70th birthday present. And we went on a 17-day trip. We started in Budapest and made our way up to Amsterdam. I think not only was it just amazing because we got to see a lot of things, and I never thought I'd go to Hungary. Wasn't really, it kind of sort of on my list. I had no idea if I would like Germany. Turns out I'm in love with it. I'm obsessed. I wanted to stay forever. But I think the absolute best part of it was being there with my mom, and my mom just having like the time of her life. It's just, the two of us just traveling together. I'm very, very fortunate in that I have a mother I can travel with very easily. And she, and I was the youngest person on this boat by like decades. Like, it was a Viking cruise. It's me and a bunch of old people. I highly recommend traveling with septuagenarians.
I was gonna say, that sounds like a good time to me.
Yeah, and so I mean, everyone was super friendly. I got to meet a lot of people. But yeah, the other day I was going through my vacation photos. I was working on getting like a Christmas card together, and I can't think about it and not be just like happy and excited. And I think, and most of it is just my mom just being so excited the whole time, and yeah, just seeing things I never really thought I'd get a chance to see. I mean, because I'm a person who always finds a reason to not do stuff. Like, my siblings always give me a hard time because they're like, you can find a reason to say no to anything. And this is like my mom really wanted, and her health is getting rapidly more precarious as she gets older, and so we just don't know how much longer we will have where she will actually be healthy enough to go on a trip like this. And so I was like, you know what? Screw it. I can't really afford it, but that's why the dear Lord made loans and credit cards.
Yeah.
You know, and so
gotta live life.
Yeah, I mean, because I am very much a person who my life just tends to happen around me. I'm not usually a very active participant in my own existence, and so that was a really cool and exciting thing too. Like, I was like, I'm going to leave work for 20 days. Okay,
yeah,
bye.
That's a big. That's a big move, especially when your life is work.
Yeah.
Like, to take that time off and to step away. Like, that's awesome. I think everyone should do it.
Yes, turns out.
Take more vacations, people.
Yeah. Don't let your work be your whole life.
Exactly.
Don't let your kids, like work, kids, there's always a reason to not do something. But
what is it? Someone used to say, there's never a good time to do something. You just have to do it. Yeah. You just got to do it.
Yeah, you just got to go. There's never a good time. There's never a good time to take a good trip. There's never a good time to have kids. There's never a good time to do anything.
Yeah.
Just got to do it.
Just got to do it. So, before we wrap up, I like to ask my guests 2 final questions, which Julie has gone through this process before, so I'm mixing it up a little bit. So I tried to come up with some different questions. Typically, I ask for a bucket list item and then follow that with a question about maintaining friendship, but not this week. This week, you get special questions. So we'll go around the table, each question. So question number 1, I'll start with Caroline. What are you curious about right now? So what is something that you're like really passionate about or that you're interested in learning about or trying?
Traffic policy.
Traffic policy?
Yeah.
That's not something I expected to come out of anybody's mouth. Please elaborate.
It would make sense.
No, well, I mean other reasons, but a lot of which being I walk around the city a lot, and I'm really sick of almost getting hit by cars.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. You don't want to get run over.
Yeah. You've had some close calls.
Like in your neighborhood?
I mean, and also I mean, this is super boring. You guys, like when we...
I'm kind of curious about this.
The pedestrian button across Route 1 at the intersection that I crossed to get to my bus stop hasn't worked in like a month.
Are you froggering? Are you
talk about rich people problems. Like, I have to cross the street to the other side. But it's annoying because like that side doesn't have a sidewalk on the other side.
Well, it's also not like a tiny road.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like a 6-lane highway.
Yeah.
It's a legitimate safety hazard.
Cars are stupid.
People are stupid, honestly. It's not the cars, it's the people. Caroline's passionate about surviving. Julie, what are you curious about right now?
I think I'm curious about learning a new language or relearning a language I already know. So I think for my next trip, I'm going to go someplace where you don't speak English. And I'm trying to decide, do I want to go back to Germany? I've spent a lot of time in Germany, Switzerland, Austria, and that was 20 years ago when my German skills were fairly sharp. Now they're very, very sad. And so maybe try and relearn that language so that I can go back there and have fun with it in terms of being able to because everybody speaks English there, but it's also fun to be able to speak German to them and maybe try and have some fun with that in terms of local interaction. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think I want to also combine it as sort of a social activity here in DC and maybe take a language class.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that'll be a good way to branch out and meet new folks and find individuals that have kind of the same interests.
Exactly.
Nice. Portia, to you, what's something you're passionate and curious about right now?
So I've been trying to get more passionate about pursuing some new hobbies. I've actually been super inspired by you and your kind of taking the reins on what are the things that you actually really want to be doing in life that like make your heart happy with your podcast and your photography. And as I realized, there should be more to my life than just my job, and trying to explore like things that people tell me I am good at, but seeing if I can find that. So I've been really interested in like pursuing like more like comedy things again. I used to do improv and I really loved it. And so I want to potentially look into going back into that. We have a friend who did like a stand-up comedy class, and so I've been looking at maybe doing something like that. Yeah, trying to find I've become passionate about just trying to find joy.
Yeah, and I think something, I guess just for myself, something that I'm curious about is kind of falls in line with what Portia said, is just continuing to kind of hone my craft when it comes to photography especially, and podcasting, continuing to learn about podcasting, learning how to use my fucking equipment. That's something that's high up on my list that I am curious about and want to learn more about. And I'm actually going to take some photography classes starting in the new year, because I'm a self-taught photographer, and one of the things I've always had on my list is to take some photography classes so I can learn how to properly use my fucking camera. So I'm looking forward to that very much.
Because you're pretty amazing with it now, so I can't imagine what you would
I don't know.
Be like with some tutelage.
I don't know. It's terrifying. The judgment is the thing that terrifies me the most. Mm-hmm. All right, so we're almost there, guys. It's late.
It's a journey.
We're tired. We've worked all day. This is like a theme with my podcast. Most of the time, we're tired and we've worked all day. So
we can't have our cake till we're done.
Yeah, we've got cake, and I'm gonna bust out my espresso machine transformer and make us some hot drinks to go with our chocolate on chocolate cake.
Ooh.
In honor of Julie's birthday. Happy birthday, Julie.
Thank you.
In order to get that fantastic cake, you must answer these last questions. All right, so the second question is, what are some of your favorite moments or experiences that you've had with either this group of people or an individual in this group, and what made it so special? We'll start with Julie this time.
I would say a favorite moment recently is Caroline and I hit up this sheep and dog festival. What was the official name?
I think it is officially called the Fall Fiber Festival, but we call it the
You guys
Sheep
went
and
to the
Wolf
Wool
Festival.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Because I
Nice.
was obsessed with Babe as a kid, and like, the sheepdogs are always called wolves in that story. So
Yeah.
it's the Sheep and Wolf Festival.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. We had to drive about an hour and a half to the middle of nowhere in Virginia, which is just gorgeous. Once you get outside of the Northern Virginia suburban hell here, which is also...
Hey, I grew up in that hell.
I mean, it's pretty.
From that hell.
I bought a house here, so I mean, I like it and all, but when you get out into more of like the hinterlands, it really is just, it's absolutely a stunning state here. And so we did that, and it was even like a really pretty day where like the fog was rolling in, and then it had to like burn off and everything. We get there
That
to
sounds
this
wonderful.
field, and it was James Madison's farm at some point.
Montpelier.
Sure, yeah, that one. Yeah.
That place.
Right. Get your Virginian presidents right, Julie.
There's quite a few to choose from here. But anyway, so we did that, and I just, it was really lovely to get to meet and chat with all of the vendors who could not have been nicer. And just because I've been to a lot of these where the vendors are just really there to kind of sell product, whereas the vendors here really wanted to talk with you and ask you what projects you were working on. And then the people that had the sheep were just like, oh, please touch them, pet them, And it was really, really fun. And then we watched the dog trials, which I love border collies because my aunt and uncle have border collies. And so it was really, really fun to get to watch as a spectator, just to watch these dogs work.
Yeah, that's an event that have wanted to go to like every year, and I just haven't been able to go. So next year, we'll go to Portia. So yeah, tell us a favorite moment or experience that you've had with this group or someone in this group.
Well, what's gonna be funny is I think what we're gonna find is the common theme of most of our stories is going to be Caroline, because
mine has to do with Caroline as well.
For some reason, some of the most ridiculous moments of my life have been her fault.
Can I want to throw in a caveat, I guess. So for the listeners, if you were to meet Caroline, you would not expect her to be someone that would get you into some shit,
nope.
She's very soft-spoken. She's very sweet, and like it's unexpected.
Big brown, puppy eyes,
and then like just occasionally like the beast mode engages, and like all hell breaks loose. It's the wildest thing. It's amazing. And so yeah, that's why we're all like, you wouldn't expect this, but we were hanging out with Caroline and some shit happened. So I just feel like everyone should know that that is the case.
The most unassuming person we know is usually the chief trouble wrangler. So I still think, because I always find myself in situations with Caroline where I'm usually like, my first thought is, how in the holy hell did I let this girl talk me into this? And chief example of this being Caroline's 26th birthday, wherein, so she's still in Colorado, and we're like, Caroline, what do you want to do for your birthday? And she's like, I'm going to go to a water park, because there's this huge water park just outside.
I have heard this story.
There's a huge water park just outside of Denver, and Caroline loves her some water parks. And so we managed to get it's her, myself. At this point, I had just recently turned 30, I think at that point, our buddy Molly, and then Caroline's big sister, Maura. And we go to this water park. Poor Maura is sick as a dog. She got the flu. So Maura has spent the whole day on a chair under a beach towel. And then it's me, Molly, and Caroline. And at one point in the day, we find there's this ride that looks like a giant taco shell.
Yeah, or like a half pipe.
Yeah, it's like a half pipe.
It's like a skating half pipe.
Yeah.
And the premise of said ride is you can have up to 3 people, and you get on this raft, and they basically just chuck you off one side, and you slide down the half pipe at the bottom, fly back off the other
very
side.
Unsafe.
And so, I don't know why, but we're like, yeah, let's do it. So we get up to the top of this, and to set the scene for you, so I am 6 feet tall. I'm not a small human. Our buddy Molly is about my size as well. Caroline is far more petite than Molly and I, but all in all, we were some big bitches. So we're getting on this.
You a tall-ass bitch, but you all right.
So we're getting on this, and I am scared, so I insist on being in the middle. And then Caroline is at the front, between my knees, and then Molly is behind me, and I'm sitting between her legs. And so, we're at the top. This very apathetic, young woman is about to, it's 1, 2, poof, it's legit kicks our raft off.
This is Sparta style down the slide.
We go flying down, and the first thing we realize is this ride is all about your momentum, and therefore, the bigger you are.
Yeah, we're at the max of the weight limit.
Max this shit. And so the more you weigh, the more speed you got. And so we go down. We hit the bottom, fly up the other side, almost to the complete top of this half pipe.
That's terrifying.
Come barreling back down, and every time, several hundred pounds hits the bottom of this.
And you're not strapped in at all.
No,
that is the downside of a water park.
And every time we hit the bottom, we crash hard, and then fly back up, and it was just to maybe go once or twice. It was 4 or 5 times, and the crowd is close. People are pointing. People are pointing and laughing. You see oh shit, there they go again.
Right.
Oh my God.
That lasted a minute or 2 for most people. We were on it for 5.
It just would not end.
Oh my my god.
And the whole time, all I can think is, how in the hell did I get here?
Caroline.
How is this my life right now? But probably one of
God.
the funniest things that has ever happened to me. And yeah, somehow we lived, and thank God no one lost a bathing suit because we were all wearing a very modest mom one pieces. But yeah, it was.
That's
It
amazing.
was a riot.
That might be one of my favorite stories. Like that's pretty fucking great.
I just am so grateful no one had it on tape.
You survived. It wasn't documented. There's no proof. Like, it's all good.
No.
Oh my
what
God.
happens at the water park
Stays at the water park.
Oh my God, that's a good one. Caroline, over to you.
I feel like birthday adventures are a theme. Because for that same year, I guess, for Portia's 30th birthday, she was like, I want to go whitewater rafting in Buena Vista, right?
Yep.
Colorado. So we go whitewater rafting, and Portia tolerates me, like, jabbing her in the kidney the whole time because we're, like, paddling. And we loved our guide. He was super funny. But the best thing about this trip was, like, we get back, and we, like, invited them to, like, go grab a beer with us. And, like, we're chatting with one of these other guides. And I think our guide, like, disappeared and went off to, like, go do stuff. Because apparently that was his thing. Because we found out that he had spent the night in, like, the drunk tank for, like...
The night before our trip.
What?
In the hokey.
Right, like, that guy... So, this guy's friends, we were, like,
What?
drinking with them. And she was like, oh, yeah, I bailed him out of jail this morning. And we were like, what?
Holy shit.
Wish we'd known that before we trusted our lives to him.
This is sick. This is the well-run business we got going on here.
So that time it was Portia's fault.
Totally my fault.
Oh my God. I think this is definitely not as exciting as whitewater rafting or a water park adventure. But I think one of my favorite moments, and I think we were all there, but it was, I want to say it was last year, maybe it was 2 years ago, but we did dog Halloween, dog trick-or-treating in Old Town. And Caroline had just got her dog Shep. And Julie, you were there as well, right? No?
No.
Oh, you could have swore you were there.
No.
Was it just you and I? You and I and Caroline? Oh, you weren't there?
No, I wasn't.
Oh my God, I could have like bet my life on it that you were. But that was like, again, very low key, but they do like puppy trick-or-treating throughout Old Town on King Street, and all the local shops open their doors, and then they have little puppy treats, and like, it was just like so wholesome. And to see all these families out there with their dogs. And it was like really good for me because I'd like lost Gremlin that year. And so it was nice to just like be out and around dogs and people, mainly just the dogs. But it was just like a really great way to spend a Saturday, and the weather was perfect, and we got to like, I don't know, it was just like a really nice, fun, chill activity to do. And we ate outside, and you know, there was like, I don't know, there were tiny chihuahuas like stuffing people's coats and like
Dogs
just
and
like hot
costumes.
dogs.
And it was amazing.
it was wonderful. And there was like a story, I guess Shep was kind of like a little weary about the whole situation, and then he saw someone from doggy daycare.
Yeah,
is that what it was?
His friend Victor from the dog park.
Yeah, and he was like, oh, Victor's here, everything's fine. And he kind of like loosened up and then like started to have a good time. And I was like, oh my God, dogs are people. Like, it was just like, so it was just like a really fun experience to hang out and be with the dogs and the people. And but it was really fun. It was really fun.
Still a good day.
Like whole families dressed up
Yeah.
with their dogs in costume.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to remember some of the really funny
The
ones that we
Incredibles
saw.
were out last
The Incredibles,
year.
yeah.
There's families just like as the Wizard of Oz. There was a husky that was dressed like he was in like Little Red Riding Hood. So they took this husky and put her in like the grandma bonnet. And like, well, oh my God.
They're so adorable.
Dog was so cute.
It just makes my heart
So
squee with
fluffy.
joy. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to this episode. You guys rocked. I'd also like to thank Julie, Portia, and Caroline for joining me tonight, and just, you know, for being a badass group of ladies. Like, you guys are fucking awesome.
It was fun hanging out, and I hope we can inspire other people to go on some crazy fun adventures.
Yes.
Find your unassuming friend and let them get you into trouble.
The quiet ones are the ones that'll get you into the most shit. So with that, everyone be sure to check out the Fun with Friends podcast on social media for photos, videos, and outtakes from this episode. You can also follow me at Miss Faye Photos on Instagram if you're looking for some additional photographs from my trip to Scotland. You can find the Fun with Friends podcast on Instagram at Fun with Friends Podcast. You can also email me at funfriendspodcast@gmail.com and find me on Twitter at funfriendspod1. And, let me know what's on your bucket list. Throw out some recommendations for some activities that we should be keeping our eye out for. And thank you all for joining me again on this latest adventure. Now get out there, try something new, and have some fucking fun. Bye!
Bye!